If you are part of the world of Agile software development, Scrum in particular, you probably heard the term product backlog many times, but you might not be completely clear on what it is and how to use it efficiently. In the next few minutes, I will explain the concept of the product backlog, why it is important to have one, and how to utilize it in Agile projects. Product backlog is an essential concept in Scrum and few other Agile methodologies. Here is the definition of the product backlog in the Scrum Guide. The product backlog is an emergent, ordered list of what is needed to improve the product. It is the single source of work undertaken by the Scrum team. This sounds very specific to Scrum, but other Agile frameworks such as Kanban follow the same definition. Let's analyze this starting with a list of what is needed to improve the product. What can be a product feature, such as shopping cart functionality, but it can also be a technical task, such as automated database backup. Now, database backup is certainly not a product feature, but it is required for the proper functioning of the product. Therefore, it improves the product and belongs to the product backlog. Also, notice the word ordered. A list of items is not a product backlog unless it is ordered by priority. The most important items are at the top of the list and the least important items are at the bottom. Why does this matter? Here is why. Importance is measured by the business value provided by an item. Therefore, having the most important items at the top of the list ensures they are completed and delivered as soon as possible, and business value is acquired early. With that in mind, let's build a sample product backlog and learn by example. Suppose we need to create an e-commerce application that has standard functionality, things like login and logout, wishlist, shopping cart, purchase, and alerting. On a high level, we can list the features required to improve our product as follows. Users can browse items for sale as anonymous or logged-in users. Users can search for items. While browsing, users can add items to their personal wish list. While browsing, users can add items to their shopping cart. Users can purchase items and pay by credit card or PayPal. If a user decides to purchase items in the shopping cart, they will have to log in or create an account if they don't have one. Users can set alerts on the price for items in their wish list and receive email notifications when prices change. This list indicates what features we'd like to build. It is a good start, but it does not provide enough details for a meaningful product backlog. What types of searches can a user conduct? What are the options for searching for items? Is it by name, by category, or both? A good backlog requires more specific and self-contained items. For example, payment by credit card or PayPal cannot be bundled into a single feature because either of the two payment options can be delivered independently from the other one, and it must be split into the two items. However, there is no single correct way to break these high-level requirements into more specific ones. Nevertheless, it is irrelevant how it is broken, as long as we have a meaningful, descriptive, and not ambiguous structure that covers the scope. It is a common practice to start with a high-level grouping of features and then break them down to individual features. With that in mind, here is the proposed list of high-level grouping we will proceed with. Account management, searching products, viewing products, shopping cart management, purchase management, and wishlist management. These are often called epics, and each represents a group of related features that will make its way into the product backlog. For example, account management will include login and logout features. Purchase management will include pay by credit card and pay by PayPal, and so on. Before moving on, I will add one more epic. It does not relate to any functional requirements, but is needed to represent non-functional requirements such as alerting and monitoring. And that is how we will name it, alerting and monitoring. All looks good, and we can proceed to the next step, defining specific features within the epics, often called stories or user stories. Again, there is no single right way to do that, and here is one of the correct ways. For example, for the scope of the account management epic, we want to have the functionality to do the following things: create account, log in, log out, change email, and reset password. And for the searching products epic, we expect to be able to search products by category, search products by name, and search products by price. There are other search methods to help our users find products they like, for example, the number of sales or reviews. But since those features are not included in this list, they are not part of the scope and should not be considered. Here is the breakdown of the stories for the remaining epics, and feel free to pause the video for a moment and review the structure. This breakdown is solid enough to reflect what needs to be done. However, nothing here indicates the priority of each item, and before the Scrum team can use this backlog to plan their work, it needs to be prioritized. Before prioritizing this backlog, let's clarify one thing. The priority of backlog items reflects value, not the sequence of work. What does that mean? Well, let's look into an example. We have a story pay by credit card, which you would probably agree is the most important feature of the product, right? What kind of e-commerce site we will build if users cannot purchase products? It is the most important feature, so let's put it at the top of the product backlog. The next item in the priority order will be add product to a shopping cart, which represents user engagement that we want to nurture, as it will likely lead to eventual purchase. Following add product to shopping cart is view product details, because this feature provides a user with helpful information about the product and influences the user's decision to purchase the product. So we identified several features with the highest business priority, and we put them in the priority order. But is it possible to pay by credit card before we can add a product to the shopping cart? No, probably it's not. Can we add a product to the shopping cart before seeing product details? Possibly, if we have created a feature that generates a list of products, like product search results. But we didn't, and we don't have such functionality yet. Obviously, we have some features that depend on each other. However, these dependencies should not be reflected in our backlog. The Scrum team will later determine any necessary dependencies during sprint planning, plan accordingly, and maybe even change the order of completion based on the dependencies. But all of that will be handled in sprint plans, and product backlog should always maintain its own sort order, which is solely based on the business priorities. With that in mind, let's sort the remaining features by their priority. As product owners, we have the responsibility and permission to decide the priority order of items in the backlog, regardless of their interdependencies. And after the discussion with stakeholders, this is what we end up with. Now, we have a solid initial product backlog because items are ordered by priority, which is determined by business value. Each item represents something that individually increases product value, no ends in names. Items are not vague and ambiguous, no ors. But what happens as time passes and things change while the product is being developed? Market conditions change, and some features might not be relevant anymore, while a need for other new features might come up. Going back to the definition of the product backlog from the beginning of the video, notice that the term emergent is included. That means that product backlog is not static and it changes over time. Items can be added or removed anytime and priorities can change. For example, view products on sale could get completely deprioritized below everything else. If that happens, it will be simply moved down to the bottom of the list. It will not be deleted because later, when more important items are completed, the team might get to it and eventually complete that feature. Another example of a change is if a new feature needs to be added. Let's say pay by gift card is identified as a required feature, and its priority is deemed to be right after the pay by PayPal and before user registration. In that case, pay by gift card should be added to the product backlog right between those two items. Because the product backlog is emergent, these kind of changes are possible, and most important items will be completed before less important ones. Still, another loophole often creates problems and affects the success of projects. It is not uncommon for senior leaders to approach development teams and ask them to work on their ideas that are not in the backlog. It is not easy to say no to people with authority. Work is accepted, and because the team spent time working on that feature, something else was not completed. Also, developers might decide to work on things they think are good to have, and the same thing happens, but backlog items are delayed. Both of these scenarios happen because of good intentions, but regardless of that, they often create harm. To prevent these problems, the product backlog must be the single source of work undertaken by the Scrum team, as stated in its definition. If a feature is not in the product backlog, it cannot be worked on. If that rule is followed, no work is done on the side, and all good or not so good ideas from leaders or developers or anyone else are assessed before any work starts. If they are good and worthwhile doing, they will eventually be included in the backlog and completed. Here are the key things to remember and apply when working on the product backlog, regardless if you are a product owner, a team member, or a stakeholder. Product backlog is a list of things needed to improve a product. Product backlog is ordered by priority, which is driven by business value. Product backlog is emergent, it changes over time. Product backlog is a single source of work undertaken by a team. This is all applicable regardless of the tool used to manage the backlog. It does not matter if you are using Jira, Trello, Azure DevOps, or just a whiteboard. Those fundamental principles stay the same, and once you are comfortable with them, you can use any of the tools and there to manage your backlog. We hope you found this video helpful, and if so, please give it a like, share it with others, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel through the link displayed on your screen. By subscribing, you'll be able to stay informed on any upcoming free resources, discount coupons for our courses, and also new videos that we release. Thank you for watching.